And two men convicted of killing civil rights leader Malcolm X will be exonerated today, righting a wrong that took place 55 years ago.
The Netflix documentary, Who Shot Malcolm X, released last year, uncovered new evidence withheld by the NYPD and the FBI, which would have cleared both men in the civil rights leader's death in 1965. So joining us this morning to discuss the importance of this decision is Michael Harriot, the senior writer at TheRoot.com. Good morning, Michael. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So what is your reaction to this news that Mohammed Aziz and Khalil Islam will be exonerated today?
Well, I think it is, at its total a good thing, right? Because this is something that historians and a lot of other people suspected and knew for a long time, that these men had been framed, that the NYPD and the FBI had withheld evidence. So I think it's a good thing. And I think what the importance of it is that it is important for the scope of history, right? Because when we have these conversations about the history of America, as you can see lately, like there is a tendency to say, well, like America is not a racist country, or that there's no evidence. And this is an example, and when you put it in context with, what happened to other leaders, with Fred Hampton and other leaders, and the FBI and law enforcement agencies' involvement in that we see the long history of America's involvement with every movement for Black freedom or liberty.
Yeah, and it's a topic that Black Lives Matter protesters have really been demanding for criminal justice reform for years, right? And we've reported on it. So are you hopeful now that the system can somewhat be reformed now that there is a lot more attention on these kind of topics?
Well, I think that's always the hope, right? Like you hope that not only that this leads to reform, but when we're having these conversations about reform, right, we know that there is historically one side whose job it has been to, to denigrate and vilify these movements, right? And so when you're talking about what the FBI or what police say about Black Lives Matter, right? Historically, we know that when it came to the civil rights movement, when it came to the Black Power movement, when it came to the abolition movement, when it came to the anti-lynching movement, we know the police and law enforcement agencies have been coordinated to destroy those efforts. And so I think we should remember and have that context when we're having this discussion currently.
And while we have you, Michael, we want to get your take on a couple of other cases that are currently making headlines. In Oklahoma, a death row inmate, Julius Jones, he's due to be executed today for a deadly carjacking in 1999. Now, there have been more than 6 million people who have signed a petition against his execution, but there's still no word from the governor. So do you think the president could possibly step in to stop this execution? What's your take on that?
Well, the president doesn't have the authority to step in to a person convicted by a state. So, we're hoping that the governor steps in. And, it's weird how we have questions about a conviction, but we're going to kill a person anyway, as if that will repay somehow the crime. So hopefully the governor will step in, if for nothing else, the sake of justice.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the governor can commute the sentence, which would put a hold on the execution. His mother just went there yesterday to visit him, wanted to give him a hug, and was denied that right. Hasn't hugged her son since 1999, especially if she wants to say goodbye. Another case that we're keeping a very close eye on, of course, is the Kyle Rittenhouse. Jury deliberations going on. Day 3 will get underway today. Obviously, tensions are high in Wisconsin. They have been throughout the trial, right? For some people, this case is really highlighting the differences in how the justice system deals with young white men versus young Black men. So have you been watching the trial, and what stands out the most to you in terms of talks of mistrial and so on and so forth?
What's interesting to me is watching people watch the trial and how they are appalled and outraged at the behavior of the judge and how he's showing preferential treatment, letting Kyle Rittenhouse pick jurors. And some people say, well, that's not a usual thing in Wisconsin. And others say, well, this judge does it all the time. And, overall, it's the levity and the wide berth that a judge has in determining the fate of someone's life and determining justice. And when we talk about disparities in the criminal justice system, you know, research and poll after poll shows how individuals hold these biases, and we don't expect judges to hold them when we give them so much of a wide berth in determining justice. And we see the disparities now playing out right in front of us in this Rittenhouse trial.
All right, we shall see how all of it plays out. Michael, appreciate you being here this morning. We also hear you're moving on from the route. Where are you going?
Yes. I haven't made a decision yet, but you'll still be able to find me somewhere out in
We'll find you. Well, good luck on whatever is next for you. I'm sure you'll be right back here on the PIX11 Morning News. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right.